Welcome to day 12 of World Geography. We are still in mighty, magnificent Africa, learning all about the land that God made there and how and why some of the nations formed the ways that they did. You remember we talked last time about how the rivers are not necessarily navigable all the way through because of the waterfalls, and how there aren't a lot of natural harbors around the coastlines. Kind of some interesting things that keep Africa more regional than totally whole. Remember that 3 United States can fit inside Africa. Pretty awesome. So what we're looking at here, I zoomed in and do not want to zoom in actually. So here we go. Make sure you have your World Geography notebook out, ready to take note number 12 for Africa. And let's have a prayer as we begin day 12. Dear Jesus, please help us to be good stewards of the earth that you have made. Where in the US and in other places there is erosion or losing of the soil where we can grow things, please help us to do natural things to remedy that. Thank you for trusting us to take care of this earth that you have made. We love you, Jesus. Amen. Okay, so the first note we're going to talk about today is desertification. Great word, huh? Now, there are obviously natural deserts that are in the earth, but what we don't want to happen is for those deserts to kind of engulf the arable growing land around them. And this is something we have to watch around such a large desert as the Sahara. Perhaps you recall in the summer of 2020, it was in the month of July, there were actually there was a Sahara dust storm even over Texas, because in the Atlantic Gulf Stream, some of the dust got picked up and carried all the way to the U.S. Anyhow, what can we do to avoid desertification? Well, it's something you can research if you're interested in it. Planting certain kinds of trees that give back to the soil around the deserts can be wise. Also, not over farming right around the deserts and using sustainable irrigation. It's something that affects human life, and that is important to be aware of. All right. Note number 13 for All About Africa is the Great Rift Valley. We have this large, mysterious valley in the eastern part of Africa. And it is a seismically active, remember seismic, the plate tectonics that we've looked at throughout geography, where we can have earthquakes and other natural events happening. So this is kind of remember how all of Africa is up as a plateau? Well, this is a place where the plateau dips down into this valley. And there's a picture of it you can just see for thousands of miles across that valley. Isn't that lovely picture in Africa? So point number 14 is that the African savanna is one of the largest, if not the largest, flat grassland in the world, 13 million square miles of flat grassland. So that's pretty awesome. 15, that Africa is mostly tropical, between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. We've looked at Cancer before. I know when we were looking in the Americas, Tropic of Capricorn way down here. So Africa is primarily between these two tropics, with the equator in the middle. And putting it between these two tropics makes it basically an equatorial region that's going to have a lot of warmth, some rainy seasons, and there's our equator right there. So you can just see that a lot of, especially the very fertile area of Africa, is right there on the equator. Gets the most direct sun, and of course, we're under that rainforest shade canopy. Mount Kilimanjaro, that is, I think it's the tallest peak in the world. I think it surpasses Mount Everest even, and Africa is home to Mount Kilimanjaro. All right. And let's move that so you can see that whole sign. And then we've got our friendly elephant down there with Mount Kilimanjaro in the background. Isn't that majestic? Just actually three mighty creations of God in the same picture. Mighty mountain, mighty mammal, mighty animal, and mighty continent right there. So this sign is on the equator in Kenya. Speaking of Kenya, I think it's Kenya that Pastor